The game of Mini Steel is an elimination game, where the goal is to be the last player standing. A player is eliminated by either running out of health tokens or by collecting 5 poison tokens. To begin a game, deal each player 10 points worth of health tokens, 2 draw tokens, and 6 cards. Place the remaining cards in the middle of the table as a draw deck, and put the poison tokens somewhere within reach as well. The players roll off to see who goes first, and the game begins. As you can tell, this small game has a lot going on, but at its core, it's very simple. Let's take a look at a standard turn. First, the player looks to see if they have any poison tokens, and they subtract that number of health points. We'll talk about poison later, but rest assured, you can't die from poison like this. If you only have 1 health point left, then the poison doesn't do anything. Next, the player looks at their hand and makes sure that they have at least 6 cards. If they have more than that, that's fine, but if they have less, they draw from the deck until there are 6. Lastly, the player can take 2 actions, or forfeit any of these actions by discarding that number of cards from their hand. Taking an action typically means laying down a single card, but there are exceptions. After the player has done all 3 steps, their turn is over and it's the next player's turn. Not too difficult, right? Now we get to the meat of the game, the cards and their symbols, and the tokens, and the odd-looking die. Don't panic. Let's just go over the different types of cards first. The first group is your standard weapon cards, daggers, hatchets, and swords. These do basic damage to an opponent, and that's pretty much it. You play the card, the player discards health tokens, and the weapon card goes into the discard pile. Secondly, there are the shield cards. Unlike the majority of the other cards in your hand, shield cards are played in response to someone playing a weapon card against you on their turn. It doesn't cost you an action to do so, but the shield is discarded after being used. You can use any number of shields as you want, but if your opponent attacks you with a poisoned weapon, even if your shields block the damage, the poison still gets through. The third group of cards I should mention is the cards that can be equipped. These steel cards can be laid on the table without using an action to add bonuses to attack, defense, or number of cards you draw on your turn. They remain in front of the player, adding their bonuses until another card takes them away. After that, there are specialized weapons that have additional rules. I won't go through all of them for sake of time, but there are cards that cannot be blocked, cards that steal or destroy other players' cards, skip a player's action phase, double as a shield or a weapon, make you roll to see what kind of attack happens. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff. If you would like to see a video going through all the cards and all their effects, I can do that in the future, but seeing as this video is just an introduction, I decided I'd keep it simple for now. Next up, we have the potions. They are pretty straightforward. Health potions restore 2 health points and give you an extra card. Remedies either block a poison attack or remove a poison token you already have, and poison cards give out poison tokens. Lastly, there are the rare cards. They can be good for a player or bad for everyone. Once again, I won't go into detail in this video, they're just really powerful cards that can change the game. Alright, so we made it through all the card types and what they do, but before we wrap things up with the cards, let's talk about combos. Combos are when you pair up 2 cards to play them at once. This usually comes in the form of adding poison and damage to a weapon, but it can also apply to potions and remedies to make them extra potent. The possible combos are listed in the instructions, as well as the reference cards. Alright, so moving on, let's talk about the die. This is used to determine random outcomes for a variety of cards. The fate cards, for instance, allow you to target a player, and whichever symbol is rolled, that's the effect on the target player. Other cards require a random number to determine health, defense, or damage, so the die comes into play a fair amount in the course of the game. And finally, let's talk about the draw tokens. These can be used at almost any time to draw an additional 3 cards into your hand. The only time you can't use them is when you're defending against an attack. You never get these tokens back, so use the 2 you start with wisely. Alright, so that's how you play Mini Steel. Let's talk about how I think it works. First off, I took this to a game night and played it with some friends, and we played actually a couple rounds. Once we finished the first one, we said, "Want to play again?" And we did, and it was fun both times. It took us a little while to get accustomed to the abilities of the cards, and even though the instructions have very helpful little charts and stuff, it still took us a while to understand what all the little symbols meant. Notice I didn't go into huge detail on all the little symbols. See, we've got, what's a good example? Like this card, okay? So, this card has the big symbol saying what it does, but then it has these little symbols that, like, tell you even more about what the card does, and they have it all spelled out kind of right here. It's also spelled out on your little reference cards. The instructions, however, aren't 100% complete. Like, I went online and I found out that even though you can add 2 health points to your health, you can't go over 10 hit points. And I thought that was interesting to not have in the main instructions. Another thing that I would prefer is a lot of the stuff that they have here, like the combo charts, for instance. If you didn't have it written out here, if you were colorblind, you'd be completely lost. I mean, I do know a fair amount of colorblind people, including someone that was playing this game with me, and he was having trouble figuring out what the combos were because it wasn't written out. The little squares on this reference card didn't have symbols for poison or the weapons or health or whatnot, so he had a hard time knowing what the combos were. Fortunately, we were there to help him, and on the main sheet, it does have it spelled out. Also, if you go to their website, they have the instructions there that you can print out on PDF, so everyone can have a copy if they need to. But yeah, without the writing on this, the reference card is good for those who can see color and not much for anyone else. The symbols on the back, pretty useful, but you know, it's hard designing for colorblind people when you're trying to be compact. And I think that's what this game was trying to do. I mean, the box is literally like 3 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches. If that. Yeah, I think it's 3 by 3 by 3. And they did a good job of compacting it so it fits there. It's definitely a transportable game. Now, the one other thing that I would say as a con for this game is these cards are extremely difficult to shuffle. They're just square, so they kind of roll in your hand, and if they were like half an inch longer in one dimension, I think they would be easier to handle and shuffle, but I see what they're going for. I mean, the box is a cube, might as well make the cards a square. I don't think it suffers greatly from all of these cons. I think it's a really fun game, a really fast game, and if you're waiting on other people to play something bigger, like if you were going to be playing like D&D or Twilight Imperium or something and everyone hadn't shown up yet, you could pull this out and say, while we're waiting, let's kick each other's butts. So that's what I think this game is good for. I think it was well made, well designed. They just have to make some small adjustments to make it perfect, but no, I think it's a good game, and once you get all the symbols down and what the cards do, really simple, and I think it's a game that anyone can enjoy. So, until next time, this is Hogwash, over and out, catch you later.